All right, I'm going to review some blog posts. The links will be in the description. The first one is Rational Discussion Tips. I did not pre-read them. We'll look through them and see what I think. Okay, ask for the information you want. People are not very good at that. Clear and direct about questions or requests. Yeah, people don't really do that. People say things like, I would like X. Well, that one can be okay, but it's not clear from saying something you would like that you want a particular person to do a particular action, usually. I'm not great at thinking of examples of these because I don't do it the way other people do it. But it's really common. So people ask, like, why did you do X? They don't really mean why did you do it. They mean, like, don't do it, or I think it's bad or something. That's pretty common. Part of why I notice this is because I'll ask, why did you do X? And someone's like, okay, I'll stop doing X. I'm like, I just asked why. You're not listening. Why did you not answer my question? They don't like that if you do that follow-up why question, though. Yeah, try to figure out what you're trying to ask or request, and then say that. Keep it simple and figure out what you mean. A lot of why people are unclear is they don't know what they mean. They go through life not thinking about what they mean. It's all a blurry haze. Okay, if you do X, I will do Y. It's not a request. It's information about options. I want X is not a request, even if X has to do with someone else. A clear request is please do X. Or like, I would like you to do X as a request. Whereas I would like X isn't asking the other person to do it. Requests are often questions, like, will you do X? When in doubt, you can say, I request that you do X. Yeah, that's like really clear. People underdo clarity and then they miscommunicate a lot. There's a lot of misunderstandings. And it'd be better to say like things that are a bit wordy. Like you could go a bit extra wordy and get your point across. That's better than not getting your point across. Like it's better to say this 10 times than to have one misunderstanding. You could like get away with a shortcut 9 times but cause a misunderstanding 1 time. That's worse than saying it the long way 10 times. It's not like it's that long. Oh yeah, question marks. Yeah, actually figure out what's a question and use a question mark. Good tip. Like, it sounds really basic, but people don't actually do that very reliably. Like, it causes problems because you can do things like search someone's post for question mark. Like, you do a search, you're like, where are all the questions? I want to know what the questions are. I'm going to answer the questions they asked. Like, it actually communicates, this is one of the things I'm trying to get an answer to. But sometimes you, like, search for all the question marks and you, like, miss half their questions because they didn't use question marks. Or you're like, I think I answered all their questions, and they're like, you're not answering my questions. It's like way more work. Like the first time you're reading something, if you're like reading it thoroughly, often you can figure shit out. But if you're like rereading or skimming or anything and they're not using question marks, you're gonna miss hella stuff. It's a lot harder to figure out. And the misunderstanding rate is higher when you don't use question marks. Right, and they put question marks on non-questions too. Now, sometimes they're rhetorical questions. There are reasons, but there's stuff that doesn't need a question mark. Like, I think you're saying X. People will sometimes put a question mark on that. Like, I think you're saying X, but it's not actually a question. If you want to ask the question, you say, are you saying X? Like, make up your mind. If you're asserting what you think they're saying, that's not a question. That's your best interpretation or whatever. Okay, so don't ask why do you think X. Instead ask do you think X if they haven't actually said X. Yeah. If you think maybe someone thinks X, you can just ask instead of skipping a step and asking them why. Because when you skip that, like, a lot of times you're wrong. And then it's like way more confusing when you're asking this question that doesn't even make sense. And then you say, why do you think X? And they're like, why do you think I think X? And now you're off in the weeds. And that's your fault. Like, they could respond, I don't think X. But then, like, what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to say, I don't think X, and here's why I think you might think I think X? Because if they just say, I don't think X, you're going to be like, but you said X, and they're going to be like, no, I didn't. Like, why do you think that? You have to give information about why you think they said X. Like, it's on you to actually explain what you're talking about. Oh yeah, this is a big one. Alright, if you ask a question and they could answer with a yes or a no, and that would be an answer, don't do that unless you want a yes or a no answer. Like, it seems simple, but people screw this kind of thing up just like constantly. Like, these things, you have to not, you don't just listen to me and be like, okay, I get it. Like, ask yes or no questions when I want a yes or no answer. Don't ask them when I don't. Like, it sounds easy, but you have to practice. You have to have actual discussions. Or like an analyze text or various things, write things, where you do this correctly and like get it right like 25 times. And it's like, then, now you've mastered it. Now you've got it down. But if you've done it like 0 times and you just heard the idea, you're going to fuck it up. You haven't learned it yet. Oh yeah, so when people ask yes/no questions, often you want to give like an explanation, but say yes or no first and then give the explanation. Do both. Don't skip the yes or no and only give the explanation, because that's less clear. They're like, wait, is that a yes or a no? Even if they can figure it out, like, don't make them figure it out. Just throw in the one extra word to actually give a direct answer. Oh yeah, so when you're responding to a question just in general, start your answer with the answer. So like, first give the answer. Like, your first sentence should be a clear, direct answer to the question, and then you can put the extra details after that. And yeah, try not to contradict yourself. Alright, so those were a lot of like question-related tips. Now we have some other stuff, it looks like. So be careful with strong words, like always, never, all, none. Stuff like that means like all or nothing. That doesn't allow for anything in the middle, like every single one, no exceptions, or absolutely 0, no exceptions. Those kind of things, usually when people say that, they're wrong. Like, they don't mean it, it just isn't true. So if you're going to use those words, like, make sure you actually mean it. A lot of times you can just not even say them. So instead of saying all cats have hair, or fur, or whatever, is it hair or fur on cats? Probably hair. Anyway, yeah, so all cats have hair. That's false. There's like hairless ones. And you could like shave one even if there weren't ones that were naturally hairless, but I think there are. There's like dead cats. You know, you could have like a dead cat with no hair. It's only bones now. Like, there's a lot of exceptions to worry about. Maybe there's like alien cats that don't have hair. I don't know. So why say all cats have hair? Is that even relevant? Like, what do you care that all of them have hair? All you have to say, instead of all cats have hair, is cats have hair. Just leave out the fucking all. Like, cats have hair. You didn't actually say all, like, it's good enough. Like, when you say cats have hair, you're not saying, I think there are absolutely 0 possible exceptions, right? When you say the all, the purpose of the word all is to say, I think there are absolutely 0 exceptions. So then if there's one exception, you are wrong. If you just say it without throwing in the all, you're fine. Like, this one allows for exceptions. You can say a most if you want to, but I think cats have hair is fine. You don't even need to say most. Okay, yeah. No intensifiers without a reason. So, like, usually you shouldn't use the word very. Doesn't help. If you need to, like, specify how much, the word very doesn't do it. It just means, like, a lot, which doesn't tell you how much. Oh, don't assert things which people should judge for themselves or which are being debated in the discussion. So, like, if the guy is telling you minimum wage is bad, don't assert minimum wage is good. So if you oppose it, you must, like, I don't know, hate poor people who, like, need it to make their lives better, right? Because the debate is about whether it's good or bad. So don't just assume the conclusion. So like the stuff the guy's disagreeing with you about, don't assert it. But also, like if it's something people should be judging for themselves, like something they should think about, don't just assert the answer. Like you can say my opinion is this, or here are some reasons for this conclusion. We shouldn't just be like treating it like there's nothing left to think about and it's all settled when people should be thinking about it. So for example, you don't say, here's my argument and it's a really good argument, because it's like their job to judge whether your argument is good or not. Like they should be thinking for themselves instead of just listening to you telling them that your argument was good. So yeah, and then similarly, like if you can expect someone's going to disagree with what you're saying, don't just say it. Like give a reason too. So like if you're debating the minimum wage thing with a guy who's like anti-minimum wage, you shouldn't throw in this comment like, well, economics is dumb anyways, because they're not going to agree with that. Like people who are anti-minimum wage think economics like makes actual sense. Oh yeah, counter questions usually a bad idea, because they don't answer the question. So usually that's bad. And don't just like change the topic when people say stuff. It's a similar issue. Counter questions frequently are topic changes where you're not actually like engaging with what the guy said. But you can do that without a question, where you can just change the topic and he's like, wait, I was trying to talk about this. If you want to change the topic and you have like a reason, you could say like, I think this topic's not important and this other topic's better, or I think we need to talk about this before this because it's a prerequisite, or some other reason. It's like a premise, or but don't just dodge the issues, right? Some like complicated stuff, you can read the post if you care. Okay, to a first approximation, all mistakes matter. Yeah, so like, if you make a mistake, you should be like, dang, I made a mistake. That sucks. You shouldn't be like, oh man, he's so picky. I blame him. Like, why is he being so picky about my mistake? Like, try to fix your mistakes. Take some responsibility. If you don't even care if you're wrong, like, what are you having a discussion for? Like, a critical discussion that's like intellectual and shit? Like, what's the point if you're not even trying to find out what you're wrong about? Like, see, a lot of times people are like, well, I just wanted to know if I made a mistake about like X or Y or Z, like these main points. But I didn't care if I made a mistake about like my arguments that went into my main points. Like, but that's still, it's connected. Like, you're saying shit for a reason. If it's worth saying in the discussion, if it's relevant, then if you made a mistake, you should care. I mean, you could be like, well, that was a joke. I was just joking around, but let me get back to the serious points. Like, that'd be okay. But if it was like a statement that was meant to actually add something to the discussion, also, in general, like, avoid jokes in serious discussions. They just confuse people and make things worse. Okay, so this is like an important FI tip. This is kind of unusual, but so say you're trying to talk about politics, and then people are like, why did you say this, or why did you make this mistake, or let's talk about like the thought process that led to this error you made. Like if you got some facts wrong, and be like, why was your research process not good enough? Like, are you being fooled by propaganda? Stuff like that. That kind of tangent is common at FI because it's looking for the root cause of errors. Instead of being like, oh, the error probably doesn't matter much, let's just keep going, we're like, well, where did this error come from? Let's find out what the cause was, and then we can consider how important it is and whether you should fix it and so on. People usually don't want to do that, so that causes friction. Okay, here's another one. Like, how do you think rational discussion works? So like, I have these discussion methods. My general attitude is you should either, one, use my discussion methods. I've written stuff down about them. I think they're good. You can argue with them if you want to, but I recommend them. So there's my discussion methods. Or two, do you have discussion methods that are written down somewhere that you suggest and you think they're good and we should use them? Because you can propose like, hey, let's use these other discussion methods. Or you could propose a modification of mine. You could be like, well, yours are pretty good, but I have like these 3 criticisms, so let's make a couple changes. Anyways, those are all okay. But if you're just like, let's not talk about discussion methods, I'm not going to propose one and I'm not going to use yours, like, that's really lame and irrational. Because then you're just saying, I want to have a discussion using unwritten rules, which basically means you're a second-hander who's pandering to the crowd and doesn't want to admit it and be clear about what's going on. People might be rude, be like tolerant and shit. Right, if you think someone's rude, like, they said it for a reason. They thought there was something good about what they said. So, like, if they say something you think it was a bad thing to say, instead of assuming they're an asshole, you can consider maybe they have, like, a reason, and then you could talk about that. They might be wrong, but, like, it might not be malicious, at least. And also, you might be missing something. Like, a lot of times people think something's rude, it's like they didn't understand it. They just misread it. That's why they think it's rude. Sometimes it's subculture stuff. Like, I don't know, I've said shit, like, at least once in this video already. Like, I don't think that's rude. Like, not very much. I don't think it's important. It's a synonym for stuff, okay? I don't know, but some people, they just hear the word shit one time and they're like, you're so rude, oh my god. Some people think oh my god is rude and you're not supposed to say it. So stuff like that, it can just be like this minor culture clash. Like, I wasn't trying to be rude just because I said oh my god. So don't be like really uptight about that stuff. Try to be like flexible and reasonable. And if you really think something's a problem, like point it out. Say, I think this is a problem. I think you shouldn't be saying this. I think you're making a mistake. And then see how they respond to the criticism of this mistake. Instead of being like, oh, I'm not going to say anything, but I'm going to start judging them. Don't do that shit. And then when you start judging them like secretly, and then they say more things because you never told them to stop, and then you judge them more, and then it starts going downhill and you start getting like mad at them and hating them. Because you have like this list of grievances and it gets up and you're like, oh my god, they keep doing it. I'm up to like 7 things I'm mad at them for. And I told them 0, but I'm up to 7 in my head. So when you do that shit, like, you are the irrational one. And you're ruining the conversation. Okay, like references. So you can like refer like, my argument is in this book, or my argument's in this blog post, or, you know, this blog post has a refutation of that blog post, stuff like that. I have a whole blog post about using sources in discussions. Discussions should use sources. So it goes into more detail on that. It's important though, because people will just like say all this stupid stuff, and you don't want to answer all of it with like fresh arguments because it's already been answered before. So you're like, here's a link, it already explained it. And then they're like, oh, I don't read links. And if you knew the answer, wouldn't you just explain it yourself? And it's like, you know, I got better things to do than explain it over and over to different people. I already wrote it down for you. Or, you know, this author already wrote it down for you, or whatever. Like, learn how to engage with literature instead of just having these, like, real-time, careless, sloppy discussions. You should be glad it's written down, because the written down version's gonna have more editing and, like, be explained better. You're gonna get higher quality when you, like, get referred to a book than what someone's just typing to you. Alright, this one's kind of interesting. If you're claiming something, do you think it's like a new original idea, an uncommon idea, a well-known idea, like a really popular idea? Like, you should have some sort of like clue about what you're saying and what its stance, position in the world is. If you have no idea where you got your idea, that's like a bit of a problem. These things aren't like the worst things, but they make a difference. You should have some sort of understanding of like the state of the debate in the world and like where your claims fit into it. Are you just following along with a bunch of popular ideas? Because like if you are, you should probably be referring people to books that like explain it better than you. Like, on the other hand, if your idea is like new and original, you can be like, no one's written it down, it's this new idea. But if people have written it down already, that's like irrelevant weight. See, if an idea is very popular and widely accepted, then someone should have already written down the idea in a good, high-quality way. So quote that instead of writing shoddy, half-assed new arguments. Am I rude? I said half-assed. Anyway, and if you can't do that or you won't do that, like, why not? What's going on? Like, do you not even read the books on your own side? Or, I don't know, there could be a variety of things. Yeah, if you don't know the purpose of every word you read, you don't understand it. Like, if you're just skipping and ignoring words, those words could be, like, important. You have to figure out what the purpose of a word is before you can decide it's not important. If it's just an unknown, you don't know how important it is. This post's pretty long, yo. Oh, we're getting towards the end. Well, there's, like, 46 comments. Some of them have more tips in them. I don't know how many. Oh, there's like a troll. Yeah. There have been some trolls lately. Okay, so put your thoughts into words. Like, if you think you know what you mean, that's not very good. If you can put it into words, even if you just say them out loud to yourself, like actually speak them instead of just thinking them in your head and thinking they make sense, you actually try to say them out loud. Even if no one else is there. That's better. It makes it more objective. It lets you like hear what you're saying. It works better. And if you can actually write them down, even if you don't show anyone, that's even better than saying them out loud. And if you can like record your voice so you can play it back, that's like even better. Or you can like send it to a discussion group and get feedback, that's even better. But just like putting things into actual words that you can review your own words in some way. Even just hearing it once in real time, it lets you review it in a way that's different than if you just think it. But if you record it in writing or voice, so you can like play back what you said or reread it a couple times, you can analyze your own ideas better. Gives you a better chance. All right, you want to find decisive answers or resolve issues. It's not about scoring points and being like, I don't know, my argument was pretty good, so I gained 5 points. And like, now I'm going to throw another pretty good argument and gain 5 points. Like, we're trying to actually figure out the answer. Like, why? Let's try to find some reasons that something's like wrong, so we can actually rule something out. Like, we're trying to actually resolve some disagreements. Like, find anything, even some small subpoint, and go from like disagreeing about it to agreeing about it. Instead of being like, well, I scored a bunch of points, you're kind of getting pawned, so you should probably concede now. I think that's not a good method. Keep track of shit, be cooperative, don't be biased. Right, like don't be like, I'm arguing my side, you argue your side. Like you're both trying to contribute ideas for all the sides, because you're trying to think of like the best ideas you can. Most people don't really do that, so that's lame. Something's like hard, confusing, overwhelming. Stop, slow down, say the problem, propose something to do about it, or ask for help or something. You can ask for help. Like, try to view people as cooperative, as allies. You can ask them for help. You don't have to view them as your enemies, your adversaries. And like, if their idea they're trying to persuade you of isn't helpful enough, you should just be like, you know, I'm not getting it. Can you make it more helpful? Because that's what it's going to take to persuade me, because I have to actually understand it to be persuaded. When in doubt, deal with the doubt. Don't ignore problems. If you're emotional, take a break. Don't rush. Take your time. Try to follow up on discussions to reach some actual conclusions. Don't just end them in the middle because it was like, well, it's 24 hours, or I went to sleep, or like, discussions should continue until they reach some sort of natural resolution inside the discussion. Don't just stop because it's been a while. You should either try to get to a conclusion, like you agree or whatever, including like we've learned enough for now, it was productive, we're happy. Like, you know, if you all want to stop because you think you made progress, that's cool. Or you can say why the discussion's stuck and not making progress. Like you can argue about like some flaw or problem. Those are like relevant reasons to stop that have something to do with the discussion, whereas like, oh, we've been discussing for a while, we should stop, like has nothing to do with what's actually being said in the discussion. Yeah, honesty, A++. Oh yeah, so this one's like really important. I have a blog post about this one too. It's called claiming you objectively won a debate. Oh, this is a blog post about something I was talking about earlier too. Written and unwritten rules and discussions. I was talking about how you should have a discussion methodology. Like, you can use mine or you can suggest a different one. If you don't want to like talk about it at all, you're just trying to discuss by unwritten rules. So that's really similar to how it's bad to have a government with unwritten laws. Like, you want to have the laws written down so people know what the rules are. If you don't write down the laws, then it's just arbitrary power. So that sucks. Alright, anyways, this paragraph is important, so don't form negative judgments of people until at least one negative claim about them has objectively reached a conclusion. Right, so if you're going to say, like, you're bad, so I think you're dumb and slow and biased and whatever, so I'm not going to talk to you. It's just low quality, bro. I'm done with you. If you want to say that shit, What you got to do first is you got to like argue one point, like at least one. This is a bare minimum. Like, I'm not saying it's a good idea, but at the very least, you got to say like, here's one thing you did wrong, and you like explain it, and you like argue your point to a conclusion. If you've never even like claimed they did something wrong and argued your point in a way you think is like sufficient and adequate, like you got to get to the point where you say, you know, I think I explained this already, and you're just being like unreasonable, and you won't listen, blah blah blah. But I think a reasonable audience, a rational audience, would see that I already explained it, and you haven't really said any counter arguments. You got to get at least to that point where you think like you won the debate according to objective standards, and like reasonable people would see that you won the debate. If you can't even get that far, like you've never actually argued your case so that a bystander would agree with you, in your own opinion, then like don't form negative judgments about people because you haven't even argued for one negative judgment. So like if you're wrong, you're just going to stay wrong because you haven't exposed your case to criticism. Because when you argue your case, people could point out like errors in it, like you misunderstood something, maybe it's just all a misunderstanding, or maybe you like made a logical error. Could be a lot of things. Quoting errors is particularly good. If you're like, well, you just keep saying dumb things, and they're like, can you quote one? I don't know which ones you're even talking about. You know, you haven't actually argued your case yet. Even if you're a lot more specific than dumb, you're like, you keep doing non sequiturs and ad hominems, and they're like, oh, I'm not sure what you mean, can you quote some? You have not argued your case yet, like a bystander's not going to agree with you. He's going to be like, which ones? Like, you haven't been specific. You want to get to the point where you say, like, I answered their counter arguments, I answered their questions, and all they're doing is repeating themselves, or all they're doing is refusing to say more things, or something like that, like something where they're clearly in the wrong. That's what you want to try to get on at least one point before you reach a negative judgment about someone. Okay, new point. If you don't like something and you don't say anything about it, you're the one behaving badly, not them. So they did something you don't like, but you didn't say anything. Like, you're the one ruining problem solving. They were talking, they said something, maybe they made a mistake, maybe not, but you think it's a potential mistake, but instead of like, you know, bringing up the problem, you're just like creating this secret grudge, so you're being the asshole there. So if you assume that what they did is bad, you're dealing with a disagreement, like they did it, so they presumably don't think it's bad, and you think it's bad, and then you're just assuming you're right, and you're not arguing your case, because you never point out, like, you did this, I think it's bad, here's why. So you're being irrational there. I got this other blog post, more tips. I already did a video on that one. This is all related to epistemology. Rational discussion is externalized thinking. Or the other way around, rational thinking is internalized rational discussion. I don't know if this is like 100% complete, but there's like major connections there. I think I had some like updated thing I said about this that was a little more nuanced, but whatever, good enough. Okay, try to focus on something and resolve it. Don't chaotically keep introducing new topics. If you have several subtopics, just pick one and focus. So try to actually get something resolved by focusing instead of like splitting your attention on a million things at once. A lot of times discussions are just all over the place, so they don't resolve anything. If you focus and you resolve something, you're making progress. If you don't resolve anything, you're not making progress. Alright, this is a short little post. Kira Peikoff is a bad writer. So Kira Peikoff is the daughter of Leonard Peikoff. So that's the only reason this was notable. So we have like the leader of objectivism, and then their daughter, and then she wrote some novels. So I started reading one of them, and it was terrible. Awful writer. No idea what she's doing. Like, it wasn't really readable. I gave up after 5 chapters. It had nothing to do with objectivism. Again, I checked the acknowledgments, and they don't mention Ayn Rand, objectivism, or Leonard Peikoff. Or her mother. And her website doesn't have anything to do with objectivism. She was homeschooled, but then she went to high school and university. I thought the history was interesting. So she said she read Atlas Shrugged in college, and she decided whether to embrace the philosophy she was raised with. Like, what the fuck that she didn't read Atlas Shrugged as a kid? Like, How did Peikoff not manage to persuade her to read it sooner? They wanted her to come to her own independent conclusions, so she just didn't have Atlas Shrugged in her life until, like, most of her ideas were already decided? Like, according to Rand, it's hard to change people after age 7. And they're like, yeah, just read Atlas Shrugged when you're 19. So yeah, they're like, she was raised with objectivism, except that she never read Atlas Shrugged. Like, I don't know. If she knew much about it and they were actually talking about it, she'd want to read the book and, like, learn shit. She'd be curious. She'd want, like, more details. Tons of people read Atlas Shrugged younger than that. So, like, Kira Peikoff not reading it then there's something screwy there. Oh yeah, so the main character in the book wants to be normal and fit in. They quit university because people are teasing them. They have mean parents, they have a nice grandfather, they get stressed and fearful easily. Second-handed, nothing like Rourke, routinely tells social lies, has a medical condition, made her stop physically aging at 14. Oh yeah, there's some sort of anti-aging science thing in the book, but I didn't really get to that. But the scientific rigor level so far is, if you say genes did it, that's intelligent science instead of fantasy magic. So it basically did not read like it had any science in it. It's just like, genes did it, so this is a science book. It's not in the fantasy genre. Like, it's just, they changed the genre, but the quality of explanation doesn't get better than magic. There's a criminal conspiracy to kidnap scientists. So they're like, look, the book about scientists are so important, and, like, the world noticed science matters, and now they're criminals kidnapping them. That's, like, a little weird. I don't know. See, one of the things that's wrong with that is, like, you can't force a mind. So, like, you kidnap all these scientists, but you're not going to get great work out of them. Like, they're not going to do as good work when they're kidnapped than they would if they were not kidnapped, right? You can't just kidnap scientists and get an equal amount of productive value out of them. Same thing with, like, other stuff, like kidnapping programmers. Even fucking manual laborers. You, like, kidnap people and you make them, like, work the mines for you. They don't work as hard as if they were free men. Even when you have, like, fucking whips and taskmasters. Anyway, so she, like, just wants to grow up normally. And, right, so she's 20, but the genius doctor makes a comment about parental consent. Like, she's a minor, but she's not a minor. So the book was terrible. Anyways. Yeah, objectivism relevant. Alright, introductory questions. So these are, like, some things that new people could, like, talk about and think about and answer some of them. So, are you looking for, like, one reply, or a small discussion, or a big discussion, or a series of discussions? Because those are all different things, right? If you're, like, not sure, you might have some idea. Like, do you think, like, any of these all with equal probability, you know? Or you may be, like, leaning in some direction. Like, I hope it's a series of discussions if it goes well. Or I hope it's one reply if they can just answer my question, but I'll do a small discussion if I need to, like, ask follow-ups. Because I want, like, to understand it. But if the reply is really good, then I'm just not even going to reply. You know, that's like that's one type of attitude. It's like, I have a million follow-up questions I want to ask. So I'm hoping for a big discussion or even multiple discussions. And those are different things you're looking for. So if you don't tell other people that, it's hard to be on the same page about the discussion, which causes problems. If you communicate out what you're looking for, what you want, it helps, like, align people so they know whether they want the same thing and they can cooperate. So another thing, like, are you trying to help? Are you trying to get help, or are you trying to correct me? Are you trying to learn from me? Are you trying to beat me in a debate? Like, those are different things. If you have those different goals, it affects things a bit. Like, it helps people know what to expect with you, and, like, I might write a post where I'm trying to help you learn when you're trying to debate me and you wanted, like, debating points, or vice versa. Both of those can happen. Or, like, I'm focusing on the wrong things for what you're looking for. See, one of the things that happens is, like, if you're trying to debate me, but I'm trying to teach you, and then you, like, debate with the teaching, it's not going to work, because I'm going to be like, well, I was just trying to help you understand. If you actually want to debate, I'll tell you my arguments, like, in a more rigorous way. Like, I'm going to say it differently. That wasn't optimized for debate. I can debate better than that. It was optimized for, like, a curious person and helping with their learning process, which is a different thing than making like debating arguments. Anyway, so have you written any like relevant articles online? Do you blog? Like, do you have knowledge or experience with the stuff you're talking about? Those are like relevant things. Have you written a book about it? If you're a beginner, it's okay, but it's like a different situation than if you've written 3 books about it. Like, maybe we could skip some steps if you're an expert. What resources are you allocated to this project? Like, do you have 1 hour to spend on this? Do you have 20 hours? Do you have 7 hours a week indefinitely? Do you have money allocated for this? If your allocations of both time and money are low, it's hard to make much progress. You have to have low expectations. Like, maybe you could accomplish a little thing, but don't expect too much. Some people, they come along, they've like these big questions, but they've allocated like half an hour, and that's it. It's like, half an hour is not even enough time to like find out your background knowledge. Like, what do you already know and what are you missing that would be relevant? And go through that, which most people don't even want to go through. They don't want to talk through what do they already know that's relevant and what do they not know that's relevant, and then like what are some of the gaps that we might want to fill in first. They just want to jump straight into their topic directly, which is bad. Okay, and then like if you want to debate, are you going to try to pursue it to a conclusion, or are you just going to be like, I didn't like your arguments that much, so I stopped in the middle with no explanation? If you lose the debate, what are you going to do? Like, will you do anything? Will you thank me? Will you pay me? Will you write a blog post like promoting me and saying how I was a great debater? Will you teach other people the thing I won the debate about with you? Or similar, if you want to learn, like, what are you going to do? If you succeed, will I be getting any thanks or money or anything? Are there any rewards? Will you be trying to learn new things next, or will you just like leave? Will you be teaching others, or will you just like be like, yay, now I know it, I'm done? And like, will you be like persistent, or are you just gonna stop? Like, I tried for a bit, it didn't work, and now I'm just gonna stop for no particular reason. Like, not because there's something that's blocking the discussion. Like, you know, I'm stuck because of X, so X is the problem. Without a solution to X, I give up. You know, that's one thing. But if it's just like, it's been a while, it seems kind of hard, I give up, for no particular reason, like, that's screwy. Okay, so then another question, like, what have you already done about this? Like, have you read books or articles, watched videos, read Wikipedia, podcasts, asked experts, gotten a degree, worked in the field, debated other people? You know, any answer is fine. Like, there aren't wrong answers here. If you've done nothing and you just want to talk about it, you can start there. But, like, people might want to answer you differently. They might want to be like, well, here's a good like introductory blog post. I don't really see any reason for me to rewrite an intro for you. Since you haven't read anything, just go read this. Or like, or if you've already read some things, people might want to build on them. But they'll be like, oh, so you know about like X, Y, and Z. So we can like start past that. And then I'll tell you like something important about those. And it helps people see, like, are you trying to learn something? And there's like this learning process that you're doing on your own initiative. And then you're using this discussion as like one piece to aid your learning process. So you're trying to get a bit of like extra help. And like the help you get is like a bonus. But you're doing like the main learning yourself. But there's other people and they show up and they do like absolutely nothing on their own. And they're hoping you will somehow make learning happen for them. And they want you to be like the primary driver of their learning. So that doesn't work very well. That's bad. Okay, this one's called Getting Elliot's Attention. So this is some stuff that like I prefer, that gets my attention more. So if you want to have public debates, I like those better. Or discussions or whatever. I prefer asynchronous. That means we're not talking in real time. It means like you write your message and then I respond whenever it's convenient for me on my schedule, and then you respond when it's convenient for you on your schedule, and we go back and forth. That doesn't mean like really slow paced. Like I prefer if people write a response at least every 2 days, and like daily is better. And if they respond like a few times a day, that's frequently better. I don't like it if it's like really, really slow. Although if they're writing like high effort things, then that makes slow like better than it would be if it's, because sometimes people will write like 2 sentences and that's all they said all day. You know? It's like if we're going through these like really small, low effort steps, you could probably do a few in one day. And it would speed things up. Anyway, so unmoderated. Like I don't want to deal with some stupid moderator who's like blocking me from saying my arguments. I prefer text, not voice. I prefer permanent archives. So like I don't want the discussion to disappear. I want to be able to comment on it in the future. I want to be able to share it with people. I don't like message editing. Like once you say something, I don't want you to like change what you said in the past retroactively. You can post a correction and you can be like, I changed my mind about this, or this was a typo or something. But I don't want your message to just like disappear because that ruins the archive. Now I can't refer people and show them the discussion because like I was responding to when you said X and now you've edited it to say Y and it screws things up. Minor edits are okay. Like if you're just fixing a couple typos, it doesn't matter. But when you like start changing the meaning, it screws things up. So like blog posts are editable in general, but in my blog posts, I basically only edit like typos and like really small things, or else I just go to the bottom and write like update and then I'll write new text. But in the middle of the post, I'm not going to like make major edits because people have already engaged with the original version. So I don't want to take away this thing that was part of a discussion and like make significant changes to it. I don't like sites where it's just very, very standard that everything ends within like a day or two. Like on Twitter, like it's unusual for conversations to continue the next day. So I think that's bad. On Reddit, it's semi-unusual that they continue the next day, and it's very unusual that they continue the next week. Like sometimes they'll go like a couple days, but not very much. So I like stuff that's less parochial, like general interest. Honest, friendly, productive, serious. Effort over time so you can learn complicated things, because when people are like, I've got 1 hour, you can't get to anything complicated. I've dealt with like the simple beginner starting stuff like lots of times. I would like to build up to something bigger than that. High initiative, independent people, own motor. So this is what I was talking about earlier, that you have to have like your own learning process. So like whether or not I help you, what you will guide yourself. Like you're not looking for me to guide you. You're looking for me to give you like bonus, like extra credit. That's not the right word, but don't be helpless. Like you gotta be like, I'm gonna learn this with or without you, but it would be easier if you gave me some advice. Or I'm gonna figure this stuff out whether or not you debate me, but if you would like answer some questions and criticisms, it would help speed up the process of truth seeking. Make things better. Like that kind of thing's better. So if you like brainstorm a lot of ways, instead of being like, I can't think of anything, that's better. I like people who have actually written stuff. So like if you've written like 20 blog posts or dozens of serious emails that you put effort into and they weren't retarded, you know, those things are better. If you're anonymous, no past reputation, and you sound like ambiguously a troll, I don't like that. I don't want to wonder, like, is this anonymous guy a troll? Be like really, really clearly not a troll, or, you know, write under a identity that has some history, like has a blog with 20 posts or something. If you are posting anonymously, I prefer you pick a name for at least a conversation. So it's not like anonymous talking to anonymous, or like ambiguous if it's the same person over and over. Like you could at least link your messages in that conversation to each other. You could be like, I'm anonymous 42. And then you could write all your conversations, all your messages under that name so that they are connected together and people can see this is like one side of the conversation. Like if you just post anonymous with like no name whatsoever, you're going to confuse some people in the audience, even if you don't confuse me. So I don't like that as much. I allow it, but it's worse for like significant conversations. Yeah, use quotes. Quotes are good. Don't do social dynamics and pressure and shit. Most people don't know how to do that, but you know, if you could figure it out, that would be better. Good questions. Oh yeah, so basically like if you don't have a question, If your question's stupid, like I could just make up a question myself and write about the topic. What do I need you for? Like, what are you adding? You want to say stuff to me where you're actually adding value. So one way you can do that is you can share stuff about your perspective, like what you tried, how you got stuck, why it didn't work. Like what was your learning process and where did something go wrong? Or you can write like a high effort, detailed, organized question that has information about like the state of the field and what the open questions in the field are and like what the experts think and stuff like that. Those are some ways you can make your question actually add value compared to me just being like, I'm gonna make up a question about this topic. So you want to give me information I don't already have, something that's has something new or valuable to me. So there are two basic ways to do that. One is, good thinking about the topic or issue, like learn about the topic, and then you're going to be able to give me useful info about that topic. The other is try to learn it, and then give me info about your personal learning process, so I can see like how you got stuck, common misconceptions. I don't like questions where you're just asking me start over at the beginning and explain everything from scratch. It's like, just read some of my essays or read a book or something if you want that. Like, it's totally non-customized, impersonal, explain everything from the ground up. I don't like being asked questions that I preemptively answered in an article or in a previous discussion message. I don't like stuff like, I don't get it. I like cooperative discussions. Like, especially if you're not my peer, if you're not on my level, don't be just trying to debate me all the time. Because I don't like dealing, like, it's easier to help people if they ask questions and they're trying to learn than if they're making bad arguments and trying to, like, beat me in an argument, but they have no idea what they're talking about. Okay, so if you want to, like, have an adversarial debate, you should communicate, like, why do you think you could actually debate me? Or have some stakes or tests, like ways to find out that you're wrong, or something you'll do if you're wrong, or stuff like that. Now read the post if you want details. So I like persistence. Now you can tell me goals you have that I'll appreciate. E.g., you're trying to debate to a conclusion, or you're trying to learn philosophy. If your question is question 1 of 20 that you're planning to ask over time, that's good. I like that. If you're gonna like ask one question, get your answer, and then leave with no comment, I don't like that as much. Like, that's not, I'd rather help people with like big goals than with tiny goals. Like people hear the overreaching stuff and they think, oh, I'm supposed to aim small. That's not quite it. Like, you can take a big goal and you can divide it into small steps. Like split your goal up into 100 different questions or whatever. But if you just have like one question and you're never planning to build on it, and that's never like going anywhere, that's not as good. Part of the point of like not overreaching is so you can actually build up to more complicated, more advanced stuff. Like, it's a way to successfully get to expertise or mastery or whatever. Oh, yeah, don't try to be a beginner who wants like leeway, because like, well, I'm new, go easy on me. And then also at the same time be like an expert who's like trying to fight me and debate me. Like, don't do those both at the same time. People do that to me like a lot, and it's really lame. I like honest people, reasonable people. It's good if you talk to other people and then like you share the discussion for comment. So you're like trying to use the ideas with others. But it's bad if you just go talk to the other people and then you don't share it and you don't get feedback. But like, if you actually bring it back to get criticism and like connect it to your discussions, that's good. But if you're just like, I'm gonna do this other thing that has nothing to do with the FI discussions, then there's no value for me there. I like people who actually answer questions or say why you don't want to answer a particular question, like what's wrong with that question. I like clear, direct questions. I talked about this question stuff a bunch earlier in this video. Caring about errors. It's really important. You can explicitly say that you value my attention, and you can act like it or pay for it. But just saying like, I value your attention, here's why I value it, here's what I'm going to do about it, that's good. That's something I appreciate. Whereas if you like make it ambiguous whether you even value getting answers from me, going to be less interested in answering you. If you're like disrespectful and you act like I'm an idiot, then I'm going to be less interested in spending my time on you. Because it doesn't seem like you're getting a lot of value. Like, if you want to talk to someone you think is an idiot, you can go find someone on Reddit. What do you need me for? You can like share goals and shit. We talked about this in the previous post. Oh yeah, so sometimes people they want help on a project. They've already started. They don't want to share or revisit the project planning, like what is like the outline of the project, what are the project goals, what are the resources, how do they think that they're going to reach the goals. They're just starting in the middle and they want help with like a few details, and I'm like, I don't think your project as a whole is going to work, so I don't really care about helping you with the details. Anyway, so those are some ways to like get my attention more. Alright, if you liked this video, favorite it, like it, because then YouTube will show my videos to more people. So it makes a difference in their algorithm. Later.